Hey, what's up guys? 40s here. I'm bringing you update number 3 to the Avalanche Shatter Shaman. I'm sorry that this video is coming out a little bit later than I had intended. I just was so busy yesterday with work, and then after work I couldn't make enough progress to put out a update to the guide. But we're going to have a decent update today. I'm going to talk about some things that I've been testing, some things that have worked, some things that didn't work. Where I'm trying to go with the gear, and give you guys like a more complete picture of like where I want to take this. And we'll talk about some things that we'd like to get, and to help it out. Okay, so first and foremost, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the build and talents, and we're gonna go over that again. So there's gonna be timestamps in the description because this might be a little bit of a longer video. So feel free to check out those timestamps so you can go to where you want to go to, and then you might be able to just listen to this in the background while you play, outside of like this first bit where I talk about the talents and stuff like that. So right off the bat, nothing in here has changed really. I do want to say that I did try out dual wielding. You just take too much damage right now to dual wield. I think there could be a place for dual wielding with this build a little bit later, if we get some like rare pieces of gear. But to the average player or anyone playing this build, rare is rare. So with less Epoch, you kind of get what you get and you work with what you got. So I'm not gonna like rely on that, but I will mention that a little bit later. But anyways, the Primalist tree has stayed the same. The Druid tree, I did try out the Spriggan Companion. It just isn't giving enough mana for it to be worth it, to be honest. So what we did here was we kept the points in endurance, which we might drop, because I'm slightly over endurance cap, which is 60% for the actual percentage. I'm at like 66 right now. If I get a little bit higher, I'll probably drop this and put these points here just for extra health and mana. And then, of course, the Druidic Prowess, we want that extra attunement for mana regen, and then this gives us 5 plus the all attributes threshold bonus of 1. So those extra points that I had in the Spirit Warden when I had put 15 points in this tree, we went ahead and we dumped those into the Boarheart, because we are in melee a lot and we are taking that damage, so this is just a nice, another defensive layer to have. Okay, so let me zoom this out a little bit here. There we go, that looks a little better. So the Shaman tree, made a couple of changes here, okay, mainly being that I dropped the points in Windbringer and in Shattered Heavens, and there's a reason why, so we'll get into that in a second. We kept the points here, Shamanic Confusion. This is pretty much not going to change. This still may adjust. We did add 1 point here to Totemic Fury to bring it to 3 because I needed enough points to move further into the tree. We added points to Ligonian Wrath, this for the +4 spell damage, and then Tempest Form, we still have 5 points here, and the reason why is because I was messing with Gathering Storm multiple times, and I'll just say that Gathering Storm is too slow. Like, the attack speed is too slow. It feels really bad, especially when you compare it to Tempest Strike, which we're mainly using to get mana back, and that you were just swinging so fast. And then in addition to that, you get the spell power, global spell power bonus from Tempest Strike too, so it's really hard to like use Gathering Storm when it's competing with Tempest Strike like that. This stun avoidance special node really isn't that great, but I mean, we have it, so whatever, it probably does something. Now, the reason why we dropped these points out of Shattered Heavens is because the shatter effect from the that Upheaval does on your totems, that actual shatter does not deal cold damage, it deals physical damage, so it doesn't gain a benefit from this at all. So what we do instead is we take this Rune of Awe, which gives us just shared spell damage. That gives us spell damage to our totems as well as us, and this is all category of spell damage, so it's not just going to be for our Avalanche. And if you're not converting your Avalanche all the way to cold too, then this will also benefit both the physical and cold portions of Avalanche. But yeah, this will benefit your totem Shatter. And that's the only part of Upheaval that really matters, because that's giving us our heal and it's doing a ton of damage. But like the other portion of Upheaval, like the actual rocks or quakes that come out, that's not dealing a ton of damage. It is scaling from your attunement, but we're not scaling melee damage, so it's not dealing that much. The Shatter is where it's at. We've kept the points at Elemental Shrines. I've even taken this up to 8. we have the points here, the 3 points in Lagon's Answer. That's because we have to have 3 to get to the Conflux still, which is our less damage taken, which is a huge node. I will probably max this out once I have enough points, but it, you know, after like level 85, it really becomes a grind for each level. Ascendant Circle, I'm currently maxing this out. I need 1 more point there. Once I'm done with this, I'll likely go back to here and max these out. And after this, I may dip into this just for the extra health. I mean, it's 10 health per point, so it's not too bad. But and I'm sorry, by the way, if things are off my screen. I have like a big monitor, so you're just gonna have to be like looking at the planner when you read through this. Okay. Skills. Now, like I said, excuse me, some of these nodes aren't spent because I've still been messing with stuff. So Tempest Strike here, the nodes aren't spent all the way. So let me just populate these with what I did. And that looks about right. Yeah, so okay, so with Tempest Strike, I still have the full circle here. Even though I've already removed the mana, I think you only need 2 points in this to completely remove the mana cost. I put the extra 2 in here for the additional attack speed. This swings so fast, and it feels good when you're just regenerating mana. And there's kind of another like rotational trick to this with the Warcry that I will mention. I put this point here because there was nowhere else for it to go. Gladiator of Lagon, huge, 4 spell damage per stack, which you're usually going to sit at like 15 stacks or 15 to 17 stacks if you're just like sitting on a boss single targeting. So that's Tempest Strike. Hasn't really changed much. This is our generator when we want to. You're only really going to use this a lot on a boss. Like in trash packs, you might hit a couple of swings here and there. But once you get your attunement up there, like past 80, you're going to start regenerating mana really fast. And your gear looks right too. But anyways. Okay, so Upheaval. We did make some changes to the Upheaval tree, mainly down here on the bottom. You're going to see these nodes here. This is just to bridge us to this node right here, which is Primal Bulwark. This is the defensive node, and I didn't originally know that we would get this benefit from Upheaval's cast to Avalanche, but we do. So it's just another layer of defense. So you gain armor per attunement per stack. So you get 2 armor per attunement per stack of this. So we have 3 points there, which means we get 3 stacks. So if you're at like 75 attunement, each stack is going to give you 150 armor. So at 75, you're going to get 450 armor, and then it's 1 endurance threshold per attunement per stack. So at 75 attunement, you're going to get like 225 endurance threshold. So it's pretty good. This is good to have. It's just another, like it's probably like the best way to spend these points out here. This node over here, the Sublimation, this is only going to proc if you actually get a kill with Upheaval. I don't think that this procs from the kills with the Splinters. If it does, maybe that's a little more damage, but probably not needed. So this is where it's at. I think this gives us just extra defensives. The Thorn totems hasn't changed. We're going to keep the same tree. Probably not going to touch it much, to be honest. Avalanche, this is where things have changed. So I'm going to add in the Blue Planner, and it's not in here yet, but I'm going to add a slide bar that shows you how to talent this correctly based on your points. So where I'm going with this right now, which I'm not done, I'm about to drop these mana points here, and I'm about to put them up in here to gain another multiplicative multiplier for this. And this is doubled against frozen enemies, so it gets, it's going to be very useful. But early on, you're not going to want these nodes. Early on, you're going to want to spec down into the mana while you're working on your mana issues, and probably Gathering Storm stacks when you're doing that. The Gathering Storm is useful for like AoE going through a map a little bit faster, but outside of that, not too useful, especially not on bosses. And then this ends up being pretty nice because it leaves that chilled ground there, which chill, it decreases enemies' attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed, and it's a stacking debuff. So, but the real reason we want to go up here is for this Shatter shot, which is going to give us big multiplier on damage. And then Warcry. You'll notice when we get into the gear section, I took off the Warcry helm because that was never like my long-term plan. Now, with taking off that helm, we lose some Warcry points, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Now, we've changed some points around, moved them into things that like I really, really want, which is this node down here. I love this. This is like one of my favorite sets of nodes in the Shaman entire, Primalist tree. even though it's melee damage, this just gives us huge attack speed, is what this gives us. And attack speed equals mana regen when we are smashing with Tempest Strike. So eventually, if I get up to like 110 attunement, I'll probably take these points off. I'll probably put them up here into increased crit chance while Warcry is active. But for now, this is what it looks like, okay? You do not have to take it like this if you do not think that you want that attack speed, but you know, when you start swinging this fast, you start stacking this up, you can like swing and then you can quickly cast 2 avalanches and swing again before you lose your stacks. Depending on how many points you have in brutality, I think you need about 3 points to do it, and that's to get 2 avalanches in between swings, and that's kind of tight. So, you know, put more in if you'd like. You can drop this pull if you want to. The freeze already removes the knockback, so you don't need these points up here. I have this just to get to this pull. It's definitely not needed, but this is going to be like player preferential for sure, okay? Okay, moving on to the gear. Let's take a look at what we've got here. I still got the ladle. The ladle is probably going to be our endgame weapon, just because it's got that 6% more damage multiplier per element on the target, up to 8. That's a huge damage multiplier, really big. This is just likely the best in slop weapon. You want to look for 2, 3 LP. I didn't get quite what I wanted on there. I got a tier 6 crit multi, which is great, but probably looking for something like crit multi and cast speed, or crit multi and mana regen, something like that would have been good. And then if you get a suffix on there, it doesn't matter, but suffixes on weapons are kind of weak. The one that you would want on there if you had to pick is the cold pen. I didn't have that on the wand that I was combining, and I just don't have a lot of wands in general yet, so that's where I'm at right now. My body armor, I've got great stats on here, but it's on a really bad base. I don't want this base with minion damage. I probably want the base that has like increased % health, but getting double health roll on there is, you know, hard. Historically, I've just not done well with body armors and stuff, so this is a great like starter body armor for pushing into corruption, I guess. The helm, I've got a pretty good helm, so it looks just like the body armor. Attunement of Vitality. Once again, the Vitality isn't the best stat. It does give you health, it does give you a little bit of resistances, but if I could like erase one stat on there, it would probably be the Vitality, and I'd put like shared cold damage on there or something like that. This is a really great helm base because it gives you a ton of endurance threshold. The more health you have, the more endurance threshold that you get from this helm, well, total, because of this helm. So this helm becomes even more valuable the more health you get in places. So this is a great helm to have. I definitely look for this base if you can get a really good one. My neck, I still don't have, I have a really bad base for my neck, and not great rolls on there, to be honest. The mana regen is great, tier 7, but this neck is like pretty much bricked outside of that. The necrotic res is great, but I could probably get that somewhere else on like a ring, an implicit from a bone ring or something like that. And then the area for area skills, really not that useful. I would prefer to have cold pen on there, or spell crit chance, something like that. And then the chance to apply shock and hit, we don't need that because we're getting it through our talent trees. So ideally that would be like health instead. So it is what it is. My shield's also pretty garbage, to be honest. I just have a regular critical erase. There is a really good shield that you can use when you are trying to push into empowered monos. I was using this for quite a while, and I may even go back to it until I find another cradle. I've only gotten one of these cradles, which is kind of infuriating, but it is what it is. And I'll show you that shield in a few minutes here. And then my belt. I've got a better belt. Still not great. Ward gain on potion use. That's pretty useless. The cold res on there, I don't need that because I'm a shaman, so that's useless. So I've got 2 dead stats on here. But I've got mana regen and then % increased health, which is good. Ideally, I would have that % increased health, and then I'd have hybrid health down there on that second suffix. And that first prefix would look like probably cold damage or something like that. So, you know, belt's not great. Boots, I've got good boots now. In movement speed, tier 6, attunement, health, and hybrid health. I ran out of forging potential on this because I was able to seal a tier 3 crit avoidance, which was pretty awesome, because that's like a, you know, fairly low chance seal a tier 3. So that's cool. Those are good, really good boots. They could be better, of course, but good for now. My gloves, once again, not great. but not horrible, but not great, you know. So I've got the cast speed on there as a tier 6, and that's good. High cast speed makes casting that Avalanche feel way better. You're standing still less time. The health, that's a good roll in there. The chance to apply Shred Armor and hit, that's useless. Don't need that. I'd prefer to have Hybrid Health underneath there. And then the mana implicit, like, mana is great, but I would rather have mana regen. So like attunement probably would be better on here. And then this base is alright as well. There are better bases, like the reduced damage from damage over time taken, probably better to have that. My rings aren't bad. The physical resistance, once again, we've spec'd into the node where we gain physical resistance based off of how many totems we have, so that's not quite needed. The elemental damage, also not ideal. Probably looking for like attunement on there with that mana regen. And then for the other suffix, probably like necrotic res or some other res that I'm not getting from totems would be ideal. And then this base, most likely want this to be a bone base, so I have that necrotic res as a implicit on the item. My other ring, this ring is good. It's got good stats on it. My necrotic res roll is pretty bad, unfortunately, but this is like a really ideal setup for a ring. So you know, it's not. Once again, I'm out of forging potential, so this ring, this is what it is. It's not going to change. Yeah, and then let's talk about my relic. So I got a pretty close to a GG relic. Luckily, I got a +3 Avalanche roll on here, which is amazing because of the other stat on there, the +1, so that becomes a +4 Avalanche relic. This is a great relic to get. I was really hoping I would hit the tier 7 roll on the Avalanche, but did not happen, so I will keep looking, but I'm not sure that I will find a better one than this, to be honest. This also has the chance to apply Frailty on hit, which is nice because Frailty reduces the damage that enemies deal by like I think 6%. So this is a really good relic. Strive to get one that has levels of Avalanche on it. If you don't get it, then yeah, maybe just find a relic that has levels of Avalanche on it, because you're really going to want those extra levels. It's going to allow you to do a lot more. And then my idols, they haven't really changed. I know I got a comment on the last video that I go over here and hover, and it's because really I have these gray bars that kind of hide the ads that are annoying to see when I'm like putting a video up. So essentially this idol right here is my chance to summon a Thorn totem on hit, which of course you need for just all sorts of reasons. And then the other affix on here is increased spell damage if I have an active totem, which is good. But like I said, the best one is going to be increased cold damage per active totem. But that, like I said before, those two combinations to get on one idol, I've never seen it. And I've got like 2,000 hours in the game, but it's out there. It's just rare to get them together, I guess. So here's the part of the video where we're going to start talking about some places where I would like to take this build in terms of gear. So the first thing is boots. This is too zoomed in, guys. Sorry. Here, all right, that looks better. So boots. What can you do about boots? So when you're kind of gearing out, you always want to like look for items that you can get like a good LP roll on, because if you're not after a specific item for its implicit, you're just looking at it like an exalted item for its stats, then you should always be looking for a legendary that you can slap it on to gain some other benefit. So just looking at boots right away, this flight of the, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but these boots right here, these flight boots, they have a they're pretty common to get like 1 LP on, rare to get 2 LP on. If you're playing Circle of Fortune, then it's not quite that rare, so the chances that you see them is, you know, higher than if not. Now, what would you get if you add on these boots? You get 1 evade, you get haste when you use evade or Fury Leap, and you gain cooldown reduction for evade and Fury Leap, quite a bit for Fury Leap, up to 45%, increased haste effect. So I mean, if you could get a pair of boots with a high movement speed roll and health and slap it on here, they would be good boots. Not the best, but be good. Definitely not needed to get these. Like the most ideal pair of boots I think that you could get if you were able to amazingly get great LP on these would be these guys right here, these Aterra's Path, simply because they have this 120 health roll. So if you were able to find like a 2 LP of these boots, which would be hard, and then get lucky enough to also roll like a high movement speed roll on them as well as health roll. This would be a fat amount of health on the boots that would be great to get, but not needed. Another pair of boots that would be really nice is these guys right here, the Food of the Mountain. These come off of the mountain beneath, which is in the Lightless Arbor dungeon. These boots are good because they have all attributes. They have endurance up to 28%, and then they have this stacking. The only buff in the game that just reduces flat cost of spells, and it's a stacking buff that you get for each second that you stand still. So up to 6 less mana per stack, or sorry, 2 less mana per stack, 6 less mana total. All of your dodge rating is also converted to endurance threshold while you have this stack. So I mean that's beneficial. Endurance threshold is good. So these boots are really great. Hard to get 2 LP on these boots just because they only come off the mountain below, and you have to go through the whole dungeon to get these boots, and then you have to roll. Like a high movement speed roll on there and health, because these have no health and they have no movement speed outside of the implicit. So if you put these on without the like a high movement speed roll on there, it feels really bad to use. And it took me a lot of runs to get these in cycle 1. I did get many pairs of 2 LPs. I think it was like my 4th pair, which translated to like 80 runs of that dungeon, and it was horrible. But if you can get lucky enough to get them, great pair of boots to use. And I think that's the last pair of boots that we're going to talk about. So we're going to move on to the shield. So shield, one of the shields that is really good, especially if you're starting out in empowered monos and you find one of these guys, is this thing right here, this Grim Constitution. This just gives you straight up 150, like up to 155% of your max health is ward decay threshold, and up to 55% of max health is ward per second. I had like a middle, maybe a little bit higher than a middle tier roll on this shield, and I had 6,000 ward. It also gives you health, and it's got a lot of block effectiveness, up to 800 as the implicit, and then up to almost 400 as just a stat on the shield. So almost it's like 1,300 block effectiveness, between like 1,100 and 1,300, which is quite a bit, like a lot actually. You do not regenerate the ward in combat, but if you get out of combat, you're going to just gain a shield for like 6k, and it stacks up pretty quick. So this is a really great item to use if you're feeling squishy. You run across one of these guys, put it on, it'll help you out quite a bit. Like I said, I may go back to this because my cradle that I have is pretty bad. So moving on to other shields that are like aspirational. Face of the Mountain. This shield could have quite a bit of synergy if you were with Shaman, because Shaman has a lot of access to a lot of sources of endurance. So this one gives you 1% block chance per 2 endurance above the cap. So the cap is 60. So if you had 120% endurance threshold, then you could have another 30% block chance. Anyways, what that translates to is block is going to make you take 50% less damage from blocked hits. So if you could get a high amount of block, like really high, so get this with some LP on it, or get a non-LP version and throw it in the egg on one of the Nemesis guys in a map, and get like a tier 7 block chance on there, and you get up to like 50% block. That means half the time you're going to take half the damage. 50% of the time you'll take 50% of the damage. So aspirational shield, really nice one potentially that you can get and use. Let's see, what else? Was there another shield? So okay, I think that's about it for shield. So body armor. So let's talk about body armors. If you were going to go for the best base, I had said earlier it was the I gotta scroll all the way down here. It's gonna be where is it? The Ancestral Garb most likely is gonna be the best base, because this has up to 12% increased health as an implicit. It's got a high armor roll and increased cooldown recovery, so that's a great one to have. Second best would probably be either this great wood coat for the implicit spell damage, or where is it? Gotta scroll up a bit here. Right here. So this one that has increased cold damage. It's increased, so it's not that useful. But yeah, I mean, ideally you're gonna want to be looking out for this guy right here. this Ancestral Garb with like a double health roll. Anyway, so getting into the uniques. So a lot of people, you will see them run this Urzel's Pride because it's got a very low legendary potential threshold, which means you're gonna have a lot higher chance of seeing 3 LPs of these, and even 4 LPs. So once again, if you can have 3 to 4 LP, then why not just put it on item? This item is good, particularly because it's got the armor roll on there, it's got mana on there, and then it's got this 1% increased mana regen per 3% uncapped lightning resistance. We get quite a bit of lightning resistance through our totem buffs, so this is very good to have. If you can get a high LP one and a good chest, slam it together, great. Some other like aspirational body armors that I would really love to try would be, let's see, where are they? Of course, this one right here, the Null Port, and this is probably the best. This is probably the best chest in the game. Very easy to use with Shaman. 1% less damage taken is just the best damage stat. It's a multiplicative damage reduction. It's incredible. So this chest would immediately be helpful, and you can see how good this chest is. I mean, increased health, increased leech rate, physical resistance, overkill damage leeches health. Melee damage leads health, that wouldn't really mean a whole lot for us, but still, like, the other stats on here are great. If you get like a 2 LP of this, and this drops off the pinnacle boss, so getting this means you're like really, you can do whatever you want and slam something on there that's useful. You can pretty much use this in any build and make any build a god build if you have something like that. And then there was one more. Sorry, just a second. Maybe that's all that I want to mention, actually, for chess. And one more thing. So I mentioned that I tried this build with dual wielding, and dual wielding doesn't feel good yet, but it could if you have some of, like, maybe even one of these really good items that I mentioned, like the shield from the Lightless Arbor dungeon, that chess piece. But I think the end, like the best slot weapon for this build is actually going to be the staff from, you guessed it, the pinnacle boss. If you can get there. In my experience right now with these Harbingers is that they hit really hard. They hit really hard. And Avalanche, even with a lot of cast speed, is a lot less mobile. So what you need to accommodate what you need to do to account for that is have a lot of health and really good defensives. Okay, so if you're dying in maps right now, you need to check your endurance. You want to get yourself to 60%. Don't get upset. Don't beat yourself up because you're dying. I still die. It happens. My defenses aren't exactly where I want them to be, but everyone's character is a work in progress, because if it's not, you're probably done playing. So take a look at that. Take a look at your critical strike avoidance. If you don't want to go crit avoidance, go go reduce damage taken from critical strikes. Whichever one, if you can get 100% crit strike avoidance, take that, because that's, might as well. If you can't get to 100%, you want reduced damage from critical strikes. Take a look at your resistances. You should aim to get the void resistance blessing to cover your void res. You shouldn't even have to worry about elemental or physical res. You might need phys res in one spot, maybe. So you shouldn't have to worry about those. So that leaves just poison and necrotic. Necrotic, like I said, you want to be looking for that ring with the bone ring, I think it is, that has a necrotic res implicit. And for poison, you want to get some idols with some poison res. Another thing that I want to mention that you want to look out for is going to be an idol, the Throne of the Ambition. This drops off of God Hunter Argentus. This gives you 2% more cold damage, also fire, but we're playing cold build. Per stack of ambition, 2% more armor per stack. You have 20 maximum stacks, so that translates to 40% more cold damage. You gain stacks when you hit a boss or rare enemy. This makes bossing quite a bit better, so you should definitely aim to get one of these as soon as you can. I don't have one yet. I haven't been farming it quite yet. But get one of these. You're gonna start feeling the damage multipliers add up with some of these gears. So like, this is gonna be a big one. Finding a relic that has plus levels to Avalanche, so you can get over to the place in the Avalanche tree that has the extra more damage multiplier over here. This is gonna be good. But you know, to do that, you got to solve your mana issues, or at least get comfortable with them and familiar enough with the rotation of how many you can cast before you have to start like generating some mana. And you know, something to keep in mind with in regards to that is that Avalanche and Totem Shattering is your sustain and healing. So you need to be able to heal and if you just dump all your avalanches right away and then you find yourself in a situation where you have to auto attack with Tempest Strike for like 6 seconds, you're not going to have any other healing. So if you also spent your Warcry, you're in a tight spot, and that's where you might die. So you know, you gotta get comfortable with the loop, the rotation loop, to be able to play this build. And lots of builds, you know, they have things like that where you know you make choices that could end up killing you, and that's just the way it goes. So I think that probably about covers this update for now. I probably went too long on this, but you know, once again, if you have any questions with this, please leave it in the comments in the video on YouTube, or right after this video goes live. I'll be streaming for a few hours. Feel free to hop into the stream and ask me your questions, and I'll answer to the best of my abilities. Okay, guys. Once again, thank you very much. I'll include a couple of play videos in here. Shade of Orobyss, I did one of those, like 100 corruption, not a huge thing. And then I did like 130 corruption Herot and the second Harbringer, so I'll also have that in there to take a look at. And then some mapping videos as well. And outside of that, I hope that my next update, when I give you the next update on this build, is probably going to be once I've gotten like one of these good items, so I can show you like what you can do with it. Oh, and one more thing, I forgot to show you the staff. The staff that's like probably best for this build and any build that can use the staff is this guy right here, the Celestial Doom. Has the implicit plus 63 to 80 spell damage, -3 to -5 mana cost for skills, 46 to 57% of mana spent gained its maximum mana for 5 seconds, so that's just massive. You cast Doom Pulse when you directly cast a Fire, Cold, Lightning, or Necrotic or Void spell, so we cast Cold spells, so we would be casting Doom Pulse. +1 spell damage per 10 max mana for Doom Pulse, +1 Crit Strike multi for 1% increased mana regen per Doom Pulse. We're stacking a lot of mana regen. This has up to 23% increased cast speed. It's got ward per second, ward to create threshold. We don't really care too much about that. Doom Pulse itself is void energy that has added spell damage at 500% effectiveness, so that is a lot. And we would get a lot of benefits with this from like the Gladiator of Lagon stacks from Tempest Strike. So yeah, I mean, this is a really, really good staff. If you get lucky enough to get your hands on one and try messing with it, you know, I would urge you to try it. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for watching. Once again, timestamps will be in the information below on this video, and you know, I'll probably be playing this build for like the rest of this week and next week, and then after that, I'm probably going to swap to a new build. This first build of the cycle, I always play quite a bit longer than normal, because I have to get a lot of gear. And once I start getting you know, good pieces along the way that I can't use for this build, I use them for other builds that I'll be theory crafting. So the next build will probably be some sort of lightning build. It may be a totem build. We'll see. But for now, we're going to keep at it with the Avalanche build. And yeah, I will see you guys next update. Thanks for watching.